Good evening, friends. So nice to have a nice little crowd here. It looks like people are starting to get to know each other on the chat. That's wonderful. This is going to be a fun little introduction session today. Hopefully we'll get to know each other a little bit better through the chat function here. We'll start to see where people are from and what they're interested in getting out of these next 3 weeks together. I'll talk a little bit about myself, my history, so you can get a sense of my story and what a Zen practice, a daily meditation practice has done for me. And then we'll talk a bit about what the 3 weeks is going to be like. And we're gonna wrap up nice and tight right at 8 o'clock. Actually, a few of us attend the 8 o'clock, 8:30 Sunday night meditation group, and I'll want to leave plenty of time for us to get on that. So just so you know, I am actively reading the chat messages here. So at any point that you have any questions, please just jump right in there. I'm going to try to keep my eye on that dialogue. There is about a 30-second delay between this video and the chat, so it might take me a little while to get caught up. If you ask a question I haven't answered right away, I'm not ignoring you. So I'm going to start just a little bit here with who I am. My name's Anthony Sonera, and I have turned my life a bit into an infomercial, but really I share a bit of what my experience has been for two reasons. One, I want you to get a sense if what I have to offer, the practice that I'm going to share with you, has any relevance to your life. And two, I hope my life is something that inspires hope, right? In 2007, I graduated college, I got married, I bought a condo, I started my first professional job, all in the course of about 3 months. And I had long suffered from depression. I had started seeing a therapist when I was quite young. I was 14 or so, and struggled with depression for a long time. But 2007, I had a new phenomenon. I had my first panic attack. Right? I started dealing with anxiety. And I'm a huge fan of Western medicine. I love my doctors. I've had great therapists. I'll be the first person to recommend those things for anybody who's looking to have a healthy and balanced life. But the help I was getting there wasn't quite enough. It wasn't addressing the whole of what was going on. Part of that, and we won't talk about this too much today, but part of that was the underlying existential angst of what was happening, right? I was 25. There were big life questions that I had sort of unresolved and I needed to work through. But, you know, the primary driver of especially those panic attacks really was too much work, too much coffee, not enough sleep, drinking too much, eating the wrong foods, taking on debt, you know, just sort of a very unmanageable life, a life that really felt like it was out of control. So I had a friend, Tom, we call him Tom the Buddhist, and I knew Tom meditated, and I asked him if he could take me to a meditation group. And, he brought me to a Sunday night group that he used to go and sit with, and oh, it was great. We sat there, we did a 30-minute guided meditation, and I tell you, it was the first time I had felt comfortable in my own skin, and it had to be 6 or 9 months. It was like somebody had taken a 20-pound bag off of my shoulders, right? Instantaneously fell in love with meditation. I knew it was the solution that I was looking for, right? So I started practicing. I joined 2 meditation groups. They met on Sundays and Tuesdays, and really valued those groups. They helped create a regularity to my practice. It took me about 2 years before I had, a year and a half before I had a daily practice all on my own, that I got up and meditated regularly and reliably by myself. In 2008, I started going on some retreats. In 2009, I took formal vows as a Zen student with the Zen Buddhist monastery in upstate New York. I started working with a teacher and going on retreats regularly there. And I maintain a relationship with that monastery to this day. You know, the infomercial part of this conversation is what my life is like today. I think I live a genuinely enviable life, right? I go to sleep at night, I put my head on the pillow, and I, close my eyes and I go to sleep. I don't have revved up, wound up thoughts. I don't sit with in bed staring at the ceiling wishing I could fall asleep. I manage stress well today. I feel like I have better and more authentic relationships. And we'll talk a bit about how meditation impacts relationships through the course of these 3 weeks. I don't get as caught up in things. I feel like I navigate more difficult situations with a lot more grace and dignity. I'm undisturbed by my emotions in the way that I used to be. I used to feel like I was a little life raft in a giant tumultuous sea sometimes, and I felt like I was always taking on water. And now I feel like I'm a big, stable, heavy boat, and maybe the waters get a little uneven, but I can keep my bearings now. I lost a bunch of weight as a result of meditation. We'll talk about that in the 3rd week and the happiness week. And I think I came for the stress relief and everything else, but I discovered some real emotional and spiritual growth as a human being too, that has provided a lot of meaning and purpose to my life. So what I'd love to do, and people are already starting to do this a little bit here, I'd love for the group to chime in the chat section here. If you can share as much as you're comfortable, what state or, it looks like we got a few people, we got somebody from Canada here, that's pretty cool. So where in the world are you from? And then specifically, really what I'd like to hear is what brought you here. I got a lot of wonderful email responses over the course of the last couple of days. People were signing up. That's very helpful to me because it helps me shape what we're going to be talking about over the course of the next 3 weeks. But I think it'd be helpful for you guys to get to know each other too. And so what you want to get out of these 3 weeks, or what your primary driver is, will be valuable for the group to hear. I think we'll all learn a little bit from people. You'll find that there are a couple of themes, right? I haven't, I've heard a few unique stories along the way, but most of us come for a lot of the same reasons. I think there might be some comfort in hearing what's brought other people here. Just going to check in here real quick with the chat. Jonathan, thank you. Yeah, it's been a big part of my life, both those things, depression, social anxiety, awkwardness. I believe my meditation practices really helped very meaningfully with those things. They're still hard though. They're still there. This isn't by any means a miracle drug, but it is a really phenomenal tool for going into these spaces and working with those kind of things. AJ, meditating for a while, need to be more disciplined. That's excellent. We're going to be talking a lot. I started giving introductions to meditation and introducing some of my friends to this practice back in about 2011, and really fell in love with sharing a practice that has shaped and changed my life so much. And that ended up influencing my graduate studies. I started a master's in education, and I really focused my research on habit formation, commitment devices, motivation for new meditators, hopefully very motivated meditators, but for new meditators. So we're going to talk a good bit about some of the research I did and research experiments and things that we can do to make this a good, solid daily practice for us. So that's excellent. Tracy, sticking to a daily meditation practice. That's great. We just said that. We'll do talk a lot about habit formation. Justin's here for some of the same anxiety and depression reasons. Ooh, Justin, I've got a great story about my anger that I'll share at some point before we get off the video chat in the next 15 minutes. It's one of the moments, the aha moments for me, that my meditation practice was really starting to click. Stress and anxiety, excellent, good. Dusty, hello. I love the accountability, Dusty. Dusty, I was just today with the group of people that I had started meditating with 7 or 8 years ago, and we still email together daily about meditation, the 8 of us, and 6 of us got together and meditated this afternoon. It was wonderful. So I was thinking of you and our conversation about accountability. It's wonderful. This group, so one of the things that's cool about the way we'll go through the 21 days is there's 150 people signed up for this 21-day course. I'm going to break everybody into groups of 5, and I'm going to introduce you by email tonight so that you can start working with each other. And what that means is I'd like that you communicate with each other every, at least 2 or 3 times in the course of the week. Just check in with the group. Say, this is what I'm struggling with. I've been too busy. I wanted to meditate in the morning, but I overslept past my alarm, or I'm having a great run of it, or I'm finding X, Y, Z, right? Whatever you're encountering in your practice, I'm hoping you'll be able to share that with the cohort that I'll put you in, because I think that group support, that accountability, right? Knowing that there are other people who want to support us in our practice is a great way to get established in the practice here. Let's see. We have some people looking to start a meditation practice. That's great. The philosophical reasons, spiritual reasons. Jonathan is interested in meditation for many reasons: philosophical, spiritual, looking within, finding inner meaning. Jonathan, that's meditation practice is perfect for that. And Zen practice in particular is a focus, a concentration practice. We learn how to identify thoughts, let them go, and return to putting our focus exactly where we want it. And that's really valuable for a spiritual seeker, for somebody who's trying to come to resolution with their life, because you need clarity and you need the ability to focus your mind where you want it to be if you want to really probe and ponder those deeper questions, right? What's my meaning? What's my purpose? What should I be doing with my life? How do I create value for myself and the people around me? How do I find some resolution to life's challenges? These are questions that don't get answered in 5 minutes, right? So you need to be able to probe deeply and see things very clearly, see them as they are. So meditation practice is really valuable for that. Zen philosophy. Tony, we won't get too into Zen philosophy in this 21 days. We do a 200 level course that's sort of a one-shot and low workshops that we get into that. But you'll definitely get a sense of the practice over these next 3 weeks. A lot of what we're doing is informed by Zen philosophy, but I don't talk about it too much. We keep it pretty secular. There's definitely some relaxation techniques here. Caroline's looking for stress management. Caroline, you are in the right place. This first week we're going to focus on the practice, but in the second week we talk about stress relief. We talk about bringing mindfulness into our day, identifying stress and working with it. So it's excellent. Good. So I'll keep letting you guys introduce yourselves here, and I'll check back in a couple minutes. But it's 7:15, so what I'd like to do is get a little into the introduction of the practice. So part of the reason I love Zen meditation is there's a million types of meditation out there, and they're all wonderful. And I really want to start as a prerequisite to all of this. Most of the people that I've done introductions to meditation with over the last 3 or 4 years end up having a daily practice that's something different than Zazen. And that's wonderful. I see that as a success. What it means is you've made the practice your own. You've figured out what's worked for you, you've grown, and you've made this a part of your life, and you've figured out how to make it work. Like, this is all very pragmatic. So what we're doing today is I'm just giving you one practice. The practice that I'm most experienced with is Zazen, Zen meditation, as a starting point. And I like it as a starting point because it is very stripped down. It's very focused on the basics. And you can get into other types of meditation practice pretty easily using this as a starting point, right? Vipassana, for example, is basically Zen meditation with an addition of some insight or analysis, some labeling of the thoughts or feelings. But if you have the basics of Zen meditation down, you can step over to a Vipassana practice very easily, right? If you want to go into transcendental meditation, you can work in that kind of space. because you have the ability to focus. Mantra practices, for example, or people work with a teacher or a guru to come up with a mantra that'll be the center of their meditation practice. I think Zazen, this ability to focus, to place your mind where you want it, is a really valuable starting point for that. So again, no right or wrong way to meditate, but we're going to start and stick with our instructions for the course of the 3 weeks on Zazen. So after that prerequisite, I do want to start with 2 things that meditation is not. Right? I think we bring a lot of expectations to the table, and it's really important to address those right off the bat. The first thing here is meditation, especially this kind of meditation in Zazen, is not an escape. Right? We are not going to be transported away. This is not a first-class ticket to some lovely Caribbean beach somewhere. Zazen calls us to be fully and completely present to our life, to be awake to it. Right? We're not running off into the future. We're not going into a trance or a daze. We're going to learn how to be right here. Right? And while that might be a little disappointing for people who are looking for an escape, I can assure you it's the only way to really work through our problems. And actually, there's instantaneous relief in getting rooted in the present moment that is very helpful to you. But so this first idea that this kind of meditation is not an escape. This is not a different form of getting high. It's not some trance-like state. You're going to be very much, we're looking to wake up. If you wanted to boil this practice down to 2 words, waking up to our life really is the center of this. The second thing that meditation is not no thinking. I talk to a lot of beginners who say to me they meditated every day for 2 or 3 weeks and they can just never get their brain to turn off. And I want to tell you that's a good thing, right? No brain function is a pretty good sign that you're dead, right? In the same way that ears hear and eyes see, brains think. It's their function. Right? It's the very nature of the brain to think and to keep generating and burbling up thoughts. Right? In our meditation practice, what we're going to start learning how to do is to disengage, to separate from those thoughts a little bit, to let them go, to see them for what they are, to maybe not be so caught up and enthralled in them. Right? And what happens slowly as we commit ourselves to our Zazen practice is it's like we turn the volume down a little bit on thoughts, right? We just create a little bit of space, a little bit of distance that maybe gives us some clarity or some relief. Gives us a chance maybe to respond to a situation instead of react, right? Actually, I think I'll interject that story about anger that I referenced earlier, just since it's top of mind. Very shortly before I had started meditating regularly, I was pulling out of my little parking spot in our apartment complex's driveway. I'm supposed to be doing 10 miles per hour there, and I start pulling out to go to work, and this big, huge raised pickup truck nearly takes the back end of my car off. He had to be doing 25, 30 miles per hour in our little parking lot there. Oh man, I was living, right? I went the whole 15, 20-minute commute to work. I was cursing the guy up and down. I swear it must have been 2 hours before I felt like I was finally just settled into a work day. I mean, he ruined my day, right? I was angry. I started meditating every day. It couldn't have been a month later when almost the exact same thing. I'm in my car. I'm starting to pull out of my spot. This big pickup truck zooms by, nearly takes off the back half of my car. In a very different experience this time. I saw that flash of fear, that adrenaline. I slammed on the brakes, right? Feel that fight or flight response that kicks in when there's danger. I saw the adrenaline subside, and immediately I started to see anger arise within me. I started to feel that warm, that rush of blood to the face and that sense of anger starting to well up. But it was very different this time. it was like an experience that I could see unfolding. Right? And even think about, just listen to the difference in the language, right? In the first instance, a month earlier, I was angry. I was, right? My entire being was anger. And the second time, I had a very different experience. I could see anger arising, right? In which case I was able to identify it, let it go, and just return to my drive. Right? And 5–10 minutes later, I didn't remember I was cut off. It wasn't until later that evening when I was going to sit and meditate that I saw what a very different experience I had had. Right? So a lot of what we're looking for here in a meditation practice is, it's not that we're going to have an absence of things like anger or fear or sadness or any other experience, but we're going to have a very different ability to relate with those experiences because of our meditation practice. I'm just going to take a quick check here and scope out the chat. Meditation is something I wanted to learn about. Clarity, that's what I need. Excellent. Hello, Michael from Maine. We're going to get consistent in practice. We will. We're going to focus on habit formation. Serena hopes meditation will help with her thought process. She tends to overthink and needs to go with the flow. Ooh, you are in the right place. You're going to love this. Nicole identifies with the overthinking things. I suspect we all do. Tracy has difficulty relaxing. Tracy, you're going to really enjoy putting in a meditation practice, particularly too if you have trouble at night and you're looking to wind down before the end of the evening. This will be a good practice for you. Nicole has high expectations of people and it always ends up disappointing me. I think it is more about the result not being what I thought it would be, even though the result may have been good. Ooh, Nicole. A lot of insight in that statement. It sounds like you're well on the journey to resolving that one. Tracy gets angry when people don't do the things the way she would. She notices that since she started meditating, sometimes I can see it coming before it gets out of control. Awesome. Very awesome. Good. So I want to get into the practice a little bit. So we started with two things that meditation is not, right? We're not escaping and we're not turning our brain off here. Right? We're going to relate to our thoughts and our feelings a little bit differently. So Zazen, we're going to spend most of our time talking about the body. I think this surprises people. We think meditation, we think our mind. But most of the Zen instruction really focuses on the form. There's good reason for that, and I think after you practice for a while, you'll start to get a sense of why. But we're going to talk about three components here for the foundation of our Zen practice. We're going to talk about the body, and we'll talk about the breath, and last, we'll talk about the mind. It actually is the easiest thing to get our hands around. So I'm going to spend most of this time talking about the body. Talk maybe 7–8 minutes about our physical form here. And please direct any questions you have. I'm going to move through it a little quickly. But any questions, right in the chat box, and I'll make sure I get around to them. So for our meditation practice, the starting point here is that a prerequisite for a still mind is a still body. Right? And why is the question. Right? I think when I started meditating, I really had, I don't know if it was a thought out philosophical point of view as much as it was really a lived experience. I felt like I was a thinker who inhabited a body. Kind of like I had this machine that whatever this me was up in between my ears and it steered my body around. Right? I think a lot of us can relate to that. Like I'm somewhere behind my eyes and the rest of me is just like a thing that carries me around. Right? Thanks to a yoga practice, thanks to a lot of meditation, I really, on the flip side of the coin now, I really see body and mind as one. I think anybody who comes to meditation with a body practice, if they're dancers, if they're into any of the martial arts, if they're done Tai Chi, if they practice yoga, they have a real intimate experience of that, right? This mind-body connection. And it makes sense logically if you think about it, right? We have all these great examples of it. If I'm angry, my body tenses up. If I'm hungry, if I have a physical sensation of discomfort, it can put me into a bad mood. If I think something's funny, I have a physical reaction, I laugh. Right? If I get a massage, my physical body starts to feel better and I can get into a better mood. Like, there's all of these examples in our life of just how deeply connected mind and body are. The Zen practice is very concerned about this, because if what we're looking for is stillness of the mind, if we want quiet, precise focus, we're going to need stillness in the body, because any physical movement is going to create physical mental movement as well. Mm-hmm. So for our meditation practice, whether you're sitting for 3 minutes, 5 minutes, or 10 minutes, and I'm going to recommend, especially for beginners, that we, through the course of our 21 days, the absolute maximum you're allowed to sit is 10 minutes. And we'll talk more about that towards the end. But this, for whatever the period of time that you're going to be sitting is, my recommendation is that you make a commitment to sit absolutely and completely still. Mm-hmm. And so to be able to sit still, we have to be very attentive to our physical posture, because we don't want to create discomfort, right? We're not trying to cause pain here. So we need to be attentive to our posture so we can stay as still as possible for as long as possible. The other thing that we're looking for in our good posture is we want nice, natural, easy breathing. So our posture really is all about creating a healthy and balanced spine. So my first recommendation is, in whatever kind of chair that you're going to be sitting in, that you pick something firm, right? I'm sitting here and, because of where my computer is, on a nice comfy couch, but this might not be the best choice for you if it doesn't help create good posture. In fact, I'm sitting here, I have a little pillow folded up in half and behind the small of my back, specifically because when I'm sitting in this chair, if I pressed into the back of the couch, what I'm doing is creating pressure on my lungs, and I'm making it harder to breathe in and out. I happen to be sitting with my legs cross-legged, but I'm going to talk about this, the posture, assuming that you're sitting in a chair. And the reason for that is, if you have a Seiza bench, if you know how to sit in half or full lotus or Burmese on a meditation cushion, I suspect you don't need an introduction to those positions, because you're already acquainted with them. But for the majority of us, we're going to be sitting in a chair for a meditation practice. And I have to start by saying there's absolutely nothing wrong with sitting in a chair, right? Sitting in the ground in a cross-legged position is wonderfully supportive for good posture and healthy spine for long periods of sitting, if you're flexible and can do that comfortably, right? But if you're not, sitting in a chair creates the rest of the environment that we're looking for, right? Which is stillness, solid, stable position, good, healthy spine, nice, easy breathing, right? So we're going to start our practice. We're going to put our feet flat on the ground. We're going to have our knees at a 90-degree angle. If we're sitting in a chair, again, we're going to not be pushed into the back of the chair. We're going to want to support ourselves. If you're like me and you have a weak lower back, you might want a little folded up pillow in the small of your back. We're going for that lower lumbar curve where you get that nice indent in your lower back. You can support that by tilting your hips just a little, rolling them forward just a little bit. Jonathan, I see that quote there about your legs falling asleep when you try to sit cross-legged. That's absolutely 100% natural, right? We could talk a little bit about that offline, and some tips for that if you're struggling with that. But all of this with our posture is going to be an experiment, right? Especially if you're brand new to meditation, you're trying to sit still for 5 solid minutes without moving for the first time. What might seem like a comfortable position at first, after 2 or 3 minutes, you might start realizing isn't as comfortable. And the reason for that is that very subtle shifts, left or right or forward or backwards, or a little more pressure on the left side or on the right side, magnifies over time. So when we're seeking our posture here, I should have started with this, one of the helpful tips is rocking a little bit forwards or backwards, or rolling right or left. And it'll help you just find, by swaying back and forth or left and right, your natural center. So feet flat on the ground. legs straight, bent in a 90-degree angle. Our hips just rotate just a little bit forward to help curve our lower lumbar, and then spine nice and straight. One of my favorite meditation instructors, a guy named John Kabat-Zinn, who's responsible for the mindfulness-based stress reduction series. He has a wonderful tip that I find very helpful for my chest and upper body. When he's introducing meditation, he'll say something like, imagine a position that embodies nobility or embodies integrity. And I love those, love them, right? Your chest opens up, your spine elongates, there's like a buoyancy to your posture, right? That really promotes good posture. I sit at a computer desk all day. I'm hunched over like this. It's terrible. It creates shoulder and back problem. And most importantly for our meditation practice, it constricts our breathing. So being attentive to our posture and thinking of a mental visualization of embodying nobility, great way of finding more open chest, our shoulder blades pulled down a little bit, again, to promote this healthy, open, deep breathing. In Zazen, we're going to follow our good posture all the way up to the top of our head. So tucking your chin in just a little bit is valuable for taking pressure off the base of your skull here, right? Making sure we're getting all the way right up to that last vertebrae. We're going to keep our mouth closed during Zen meditation, Zazen. We're going to breathe in and out through our nose. So you can keep your mouth closed, but you're going to be careful not to clench your jaw. If you find that you're having trouble salivating or swallowing, or you have a lot of saliva and you're swallowing a lot, you can simply push your tongue lightly against the roof of your mouth, and that'll help suppress that need. We're going to breathe in and out through our nose. And the last instruction here is with our eyes, we're going to keep our eyes only about 2/3 of the way closed. We're going to lower our eyes. We're going to let our upper eyelids close. We're not going to close our eyes all the way. We're going to look very softly at the floor about 2 or 3 feet in front of us. If you're in a very formal Zen meditation, especially if you're like a monastery or something, I sit practicing facing a wall. I sit about 2 or 3 feet away from a wall, and I'm trying to let go of any visual stimulation and distraction, but at the same time, I don't want to close my eyes and cut myself off from reality, right? So I'm just trying to soften my gaze and look softly at the floor 2 or 3 feet in front of me. Last component here that we didn't touch on is what we're doing with our hands. There's 2 recommendations. One is the more formal, and that is we hold our hands in what is called the cosmic mudra. The cosmic mudra is formed by placing your active hand down first, your other hand in it, and then reaching your thumbs around. So it creates this beautiful oval shape that'll rest in your lap right up against your stomach. Right? It's called the cosmic mudra. Should create a beautiful oval shape. We could talk about that for about half an hour, so I'm just going to leave it with the instruction. I encourage you to try that. It's a very formal way of sitting. If you're not comfortable with that, you can just simply rest your palms on your thighs. Is perfectly acceptable as well. I'm just going to check in here because that's the full extent of the physical posture, right? With the feet flat on the ground, legs in a 90-degree angle, tilt our hips forward just a little bit, get that lower lumbar curve, nice straight spine, open chest, a little bit tilt in of the chin, not much, mouth closed, breathe in and out through the nose, eyes very softly gazing at the floor, 2 or 3 feet in front of us, hands in the cosmic mudra, resting in our lap. So if there are any questions, you could drop them in the chat box now. I am checking the email here. It looks like there are a couple questions about technical questions, which unfortunately I'm not going to be able to help. Bill is in New Jersey. He has been saying that meditation is on his to-do list for years. He does yoga and used to be a heavy-duty runner. That's great, Bill. You're going to love this course. I think you'll find some good companions here. So, okay, I'm not seeing any questions yet, but there is also a 30-second delay, so I'm just going to take one more second and see. Okay, I guess we got a pretty decent explanation of the physical body. So let's move on to the breath. So the second component, we've got this nice, good, healthy posture. So what are we going to be doing during our practice? The anchor for our practice, the center of our practice, is our breath. Right? And what this means is we're really going to be trying to place and maintain our focus on our breath. Right? And breathing is going to happen nice and naturally during this. Right? It's not a deep breathing exercise. We're not forcing our breath. We're not exerting. If somebody were sitting next to us, they shouldn't be able to hear us breathing. We're not, right? There's none of that. This is just letting the body do. Oh, Patty's got a question. Sorry, I'm jumping back here a second about the less dominant that holds the other hand. So the cosmic mudra, I'm a righty, so I'm right-handed is my dominant hand. So my right hand goes in my lap and my left hand goes on top of it. So it's the dominant hand's on the bottom. Amy's answering the question. Thank you. Back to this idea of the breath. So the breath, we're not controlling the breath. Actually, there's wonderful lessons to be learned here, not kind of trying to control the breath too, right? We have to get a little hands off. We're just going to observe. And in our mind's first reaction when it starts to pay attention to something is to control it. Right? And we see that in a lot of ways in our life. I'm sure I don't have to draw too many examples of for you to be able to see something. But we're simply going to observe the breath. We're going to let it happen naturally. If our posture is good, if our body is relaxed, if we're settled into our practice, our breathing will start to slow down and it will start to deepen. Right? One of the things we'll notice is that if our posture is good, if our spine is nice and elongated, we'll feel our diaphragm expanding, and it's almost like, the sensation is almost like you're breathing all the way down into your belly. And that's particularly valuable for us in Zazen because we're going to be focusing our attention on hara. Hara is H-A-R-A. It's a Japanese word. It literally translates as lower abdomen. And now you're breathing manually. Yes, AJ, exactly. Ahara is the physical center of the body. And one of the reasons I love placing my attention all the way down in Hara is there's something very calming, something very settling, something that draws you into your body, maybe away from your brain where thoughts happen, and really grounds you in your physical being. Right? So, Jay, I think we're going to talk about the mind in just a moment. We're just about there. So, I don't want to wax poetically for too long about the breath, but I do think it's valuable to talk about it for just a moment. Breathing is a great anchor for our practice because you can only breathe in the moment. Right? There's an immediacy to breath that brings us to right here and right now. There's some urgency to it, right? It takes priority over everything else, right? You can go days without food. You can go a day or two without water. You can't go 2.5 minutes without air, right? So we need breath. We also tend to breathe very easily. We don't think about breaths that we had in the past. We're not too worried about breaths we're going to take in the future, right? We're usually just breathing this one breath right in this moment. And so much of the relief of our meditation practice really comes from being in the present moment. Right? I'm sure you've heard the examples of, when we're in the past, we're in anger or resentment, or we're holding on to worry. When we're in the future, we're in anxiety and worry. And We're in fantasy. And if we're present, if we're just right here in the moment, we alleviate most of the mental stress, right? There's a roof over my head. It's not raining on me. I'm not being chased by any bears right now. I'm not physically on fire, right? I mean, this moment tends to be okay, right? Most of the time, right where I am is pretty decent. So by getting connected to the breath, getting connected to this moment, and I'm finding a lot of the relief that comes from the meditation practice nearly immediately. The last thing I'll say about breath is there is something also, and we are not trying to engage in this kind of visualization when we're in our meditation practice, but if you chew on this a little bit, where does this breath come from that I need so desperately? Well, it comes from the trees out there that are in some magical process, changing carbon dioxide into breathable oxygen. Well, why are they there? Because somebody planted them, and because there were clouds and it rained on them, and there's a sun that, creates photosynthesis. And so why is the sun there? The sun's there because of the universe. And so what you do if you follow that trail is, I need the whole of the universe to exist to be able to breathe this breath. Right? Something very unifying about it too, right? We all breathe. We breathe the same air. It's the same air that the dinosaurs breathed 1 million years ago, right? So there's something very interconnecting between our fellow humans and other sentient beings and the whole universe, right? Everything needs to come together to be able to breathe. The simple action that we mostly take for granted is really quite miraculous when you start to get into it. I'm going to talk about the mind in just a second, but we covered the body, we covered the breath. Nice, natural, easy breathing in and out through our nose. We're not going to control it. We're just going to let breathing happen, and it roots us in the present moment. Can't control the mental chatter. Automatic, great, excellent. Ooh, JP just said to Juan something that is absolutely 100% spot on. JP says, Juan, the more you try to control the mental chatter, the harder it is. Don't fight against it. Just let your thoughts come and go. Home run. JP, come over here and teach the rest of the class because I suspect you got it. So that's something really insightful. And that is a great transition into talking about the mind here. So we've got this really physically still body. We're starting to pay attention to our breath. Now, how do we meditate? In Zazen, we're going to very simply count breaths, right? We breathe in, we're going to count 1. We exhale, we count 2. We breathe in, we count 3. We exhale, we count 4. We get up to the count of 10. When we get to 10, we release the counting, we return down to 1, and we repeat. And we're just going to count breaths through the course of our practice. There's no graduating counting breaths. You could be my Buddhist teacher who's been living in a monastery for 28 years, and he still spends the first couple of hours of his meditation practice just counting his breath, right? This is not kindergarten level Zazen. It's actually incredibly challenging. Because if your brain is anything like mine, I can't get to the count of 2 before the mental chatter starts, right? Oh, it's a little warm in this room. I wish I could be running the air conditioner, except they wouldn't be able to hear me. Oh, what's the air conditioner going to do to the electric bill? And next thing you know, I'm 1 million miles away from where I'm trying to be, which is right here in the present moment. So in our Zazen practice, we've made a commitment to ourselves to be still, and we're making a commitment to ourselves to let go of thoughts and to return to our breath. And that's really what this practice is, right? It's a notice what I'm thinking, let go of the thoughts almost as if mid-sentence, right? And then return back to the sensation, the experience of the breath. Right? And so for me, when I get caught up in thinking, I like to just return right back to the count of 1, and I breathe in 1, and I exhale 2. And I breathe in 3, and I exhale 4. And I start to think, oh, I'm a little sweaty. I wish I'd put some deodorant on. I wonder if I look sweaty in this video. Next thing you know, there's my brain again. Mid-sentence, I let it go. If it's important enough of a thought, it'll come back to me later. I'm going to return fully and completely to the experience of the breath. Let's try this together just as a group for 1 minute. and just see how immersing yourself in the experience of the breath can substitute for distracting thoughts. So I'm just gonna do 60 seconds here. I'll ring the bell twice to start and once to wrap it up. So try to attend to your posture, try to get stable and still. Turn your focus to your breath. Inhale, count 1, exhale, count 2. When you notice a thought, just let it go mid-sentence. Don't judge yourself. Your brain's just doing what it's doing. Just return your focus completely and totally to the experience of the breath. So it happens really quickly, right? For me, it's just amazing. Every time I turn my experience back to the breath, there's this almost sense of wonder, right? This sensation, cool air rushing into my nose, warm, moist air rushing out. It's almost like I've discovered it for the first time every time I start tuning into my zazen, into my meditation practice. And yet, that experience is always available to me. Right? I'm always breathing. There's always sensation of air moving in and out of my body. And yet, like so much of my life, I miss it, right? And so like we said at the beginning of this video chat here, the core of this practice could be summed up in saying, wake up, right? Wake up from the traffic, the noise that's in between your head, and wake up to a full and authentic experience of your life, right? It's joyful. I mean, there's no way around it. Letting go of some of that noise and getting rooted into the present moment is going to cure 60–70% of free-floating anxiety. There's lots of complexity once we get past the easy stuff. And we're going to get into that a bit over the course of the 3 weeks that we spent together. But we find almost immediate relief in just stepping back, letting go, and being still for a little while. So, getting a few responses here. Good, excellent, glad people liked it. The bells are wonderful. Tracy, I love that. Tracy says, several times I got 12 or 13 and then thought, crap, I was only supposed to go to 10, which is funny, right? We get into into a rhythm there, and that absolutely happens. Acceptance and non-judgmental awareness and acceptance is so critical to this practice, right? You cannot observe your thoughts and be critical and nasty towards yourself. You just wouldn't be able to practice for very long, right? So recognizing that we get into a habit, or we get into a groove, or our brain is just always used to chatter, right? So, learning how to focus, learning how to be still is going to be new to us. And so we need to not be critical of ourselves, right? Our brain's just doing what it's done every day that you've been alive for your entire life until now that you finally started trying to meditate. AJ asks, after all of your practice, do you still struggle with chatter? Absolutely, AJ. I would say, well, I don't want to say I'm the worst meditator, because that has all kinds of terrible, there's no such thing as good meditation or bad meditation, right? There's only, did you practice or not? Right? I definitely am much more aware of my thoughts and thinking. There is not a deep identification. I used to think that this voice that was in my head was me, right? It was me, but it's just the Buddhists talk about there being 6 senses, taste, touch, sight, smell, sound, and thought, right? It's just one of the senses. And in the same way that sometimes I see things that end up to be something else, sometimes I think things that end up being something else, right? And so this little bit of not identifying with my thoughts as much, creating a little bit of space, has just turned the intensity down. And because I'm more aware of distracting thoughts, I think I'm a little bit more capable of recognizing when I'm thinking instead of placing my focus where I'd like it to be. So like I walk around, I always have malas on. And if I'm sitting in a meeting and there's somebody I want to be engaged with or listening to, I have a tendency of taking them off, and I just kind of count breaths and pull off a bead with each breath. And I find that as a way of getting into a space where I'm letting go of thoughts and just accepting what's around me, right? So I think I'm maybe not any better at, my brain still chatters in the same way, but I'm a little more conscious of it, and then I have some tools and a skill set that allows me to work in that space. Jay asked, do you recommend music or silence? Jay, I recommend silence. It's a good question, actually. Jay, at the very beginning, I talked that the very first thing I said was there is no right or wrong way to do this. At the end of the day, you do have to find what works for you. I find no music and real silent meditation to be some of the most beneficial, because you're really left with, what we're doing is stripping away all of the distractions, and we're left only with the thoughts in our mind, right? And it's in working with those thoughts and separating from them and learning how to identify them and let them go that we start to be able to develop the ability to place our mind where we want it to be. So there can be listening to music that can be very relaxing and soothing. It can be kind of a point of focus, but that could also be a different kind of experience. Let's see here. Karen says, I must have been doing it wrong. I was doing 1 in, 2 out the whole time. Karen, actually, I practice that way quite a bit, especially on the days that I'm really getting distracted with thoughts. I just breathe in and breathe out, 2, 1, 2. So again, no right or wrong way. You just got to find what works for you. I do recommend keeping the counting limited to a low number, because you don't want it to start becoming a math problem. Right? You start counting past 10, we can all count to 10. It's the decimal system. There's a reason it's very tied into our human experience, clumping things into tens. So it's very natural. In the same way that we don't have to control our breath, we don't have to, put a lot of cognitive thought, cognitive processing into getting to the count of 10. So counting in and out, 1, 2 is fine. I have a very dear friend, Tom the Buddhist, my friend who introduced me to meditation. He simply says, notes in, out, his whole meditation practice, right? So that's fine. Tony felt like he had a great weight lifting off his shoulders. That's awesome. Patty said, isn't this why they call it practice? I want to, this is great. Serena, I'm going to answer that in just a second, but I do want to talk about practice for just a second. I love that we call this a meditation practice. And it's because it begs the question, what are we practicing for? And for me, my meditation practice is the practice I'm putting in for how I want to live my day-to-day, my moment-to-moment life. When I let go of thoughts and I place my focus where I want it to be, I am truly and completely experiencing the present moment. If I'm having, I saw my mother this morning. I love my mom. We have this great connection, and she's a meditator. She's just a wonderful person, and I don't get to see her very often. And we spent some time together, and I really want to just be present for that. Right? And so when she's speaking, if I can let go of distracting thoughts and I can really fully experience that moment, I would say that's my practice demonstrating its value in my daily life. Right? My girlfriend recently heard me talking about this, about why I love that we call it practice, and she had a little different take on it, and I loved her take. She said, by calling it a practice, it's an invitation for it to not be perfect. It's going to be messy. That we're going to try and try again, and that there's no end to this. That practice is a place where, I'm going to get distracted. I'm going to daydream. I'm going to forget to count. I'm going to count too high. I'm going to have all of these hiccups to my practice. But that's okay, right? This is that non-judgmental awareness, that acceptance that we're talking about, that we really want to be at the heart of our practice here, right? So I love that we call it practice. Serena, can meditation help with my unhealthy habits? Absolutely. Awareness is the first step for any improvement, self-improvement. Also, developing a meditation habit is a great exercise in learning what habit formation is and how to execute that in your life. So most bad habits need to be replaced by healthy ones, right? So if we eat junk food, we need to eat healthy food. If we, curse, we need to learn how to use positive language. We'll talk a good bit in this first week about habit formation for new meditators. And there's some great literature out there. The Power of Habit is a really wonderful book, very easy to get your hands around. Charles Dunhill, I believe is his name, New York Times writer, wonderful book, really sums up the science of habit formation, can help you understand how to break apart unhealthy habits and build new ones. But meditation will give you awareness. I'll give a quick story. I was about 55 pounds heavier when I first started meditating. And the reason I started losing weight is because I felt just so much tightness and pressure, and I was always full because I was having these huge meals. So actually breathing during meditation practice was very uncomfortable. I couldn't get comfortable in my body during my practice, right? So just being aware of the physical toll that eating a whole cheese pizza, for example, was taking on my body was the first step towards improving that. Let's see here. Amy, I think Amy's question is, can you help me understand the difference between using beads, counting breaths as a way to quiet the mind versus using music or chanting to find focus? I think you've sort of highlighted it there, right? These are all different roads up the same mountain. I have if you do a Google search for Go There Often, Zen Happiness Project blog, I wrote a post about this a couple months ago about the different places that we practice and how to develop focus, and how it doesn't just have to be a meditation practice. But if you Google that, you'll find a really good answer there. Hattie Davis, The Downside of Meditation on NPR. I did not hear this. I'll have to read about that. Good. Okay. So it's 8 o'clock. So I'd like to wrap up and try to keep on time here. A few sort of parting tips. One of the essentials, I think, to good habit formation is setting a really manageable bar for ourselves. You guys are all here on a Sunday night you dedicate an hour of your time. Your motivation is obviously very high. There's 31 of you who've watched, who've been here since the beginning of this, and an hour later are still here, right? So you're very motivated. You're excited about it. For whatever reasons brought you to a meditation practice, you're taking some action. 2 weeks from now, you're going to have less motivation. I don't care who you are. It's just the human nature, right? Especially once you start getting a little bit of the relief of the beginning of a meditation practice. Maybe if you were struggling with anxiety because you were stressed out at work, you're going to be less stressed out at work a week and a half from now. And that takes some of the foot off the gas pedal of what drives us, right? So you may be really amped up and ready to meditate 20 minutes every day today, but you might not be in 2 weeks. We know from the science of habit formation that it takes on average 64 days to form a new habit. So for this first 2.5 months of your meditation practice, your goal is to do it, right? Not to do it for any period of time, but to sit still for at least 1 minute. I usually recommend 3 minutes. I think 5 minutes is a really nice number. If you're feeling crazy, terribly motivated, and you don't have a lot of personal or social or professional obligations, you could be crazy and go with 10 minutes. But I really want you to pick a manageable amount, an amount that you couldn't possibly imagine coming up with an excuse for not having the time to do. So 3 or 5 minutes for your daily meditation for the course of these 3 weeks, I think is ideal. Second, check in with the group. Use the email and the email group and the encouragement of the cohort that you're going to set up here to really help you stay accountable, to support each other, talk about your failures and talk about your successes, and try to bring some honesty to that experience. I think what I found in some of these group settings, some of the best groups that brought forward their vulnerability early on said, you know what? It's Tuesday of the first week, and I haven't even meditated a single time yet, right? And I find that people are willing to take that risk, step out there, and share with the group their imperfections. Usually are met pretty quickly, right? We're all just human, trying to do a little bit better, and we can only I won't go down that road. I'll just say we're human beings. We're not perfect, right? We can have our intention and we can try our best, and we can always recommit ourselves the next day. But one of the things that we get to do as a group throughout the course of these 3 weeks together is really support and encourage each other, trying to create a safe and positive place that we can all get along out of it. The last thing I'll close with is that these next 3 weeks, I'm here to be help, right? It's 150 people in the emails. 30 of you showed up and sat through this video chat tonight. I suspect some people will catch up with it. I'd love to hear from you. It's a manageable group, and I love this stuff. I'm here to answer your questions. I'm happy to talk to you. If you're struggling over the course of the week and the email's not enough, I regularly talk by phone or video chat with my friends here. I'm happy to catch up with you. If you have my email address, please just reach out. I'd be happy to speak to you. So do it, support each other, make it manageable. It should be fun, it should be life enriching, and we're gonna give ourselves a little pat on the back and not be too critical of ourselves, regardless of what happens. So I've already run over, so I'm gonna stop. I'm going to stay in the chat room for a couple minutes, so if you have any more questions I can answer there, I happily will. And again, of course, there'll be the daily emails in which you can always reply, and it's just me on the other side. So I look forward to talking to all of you, look forward to practicing with you. Thank you very much.